Hey guys, Dr. B here. So this is chapter 7, meiosis and sexual reproduction. So the so this image that you see in the first slide is actually what a fertilized egg can look like. So you have the egg in the middle and then the sperm around it. All right, so what exactly is meiosis? Meiosis refers to cell division that halves the number of chromosomes when forming reproductive cells or reproduction cells, so gametes. So mitosis was the formation or you can say the making copies of cells that are not sex cells. So meiosis is focusing on the gametes, so sperm and egg. There are two divisions called meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. So in meiosis 1, you'll notice really quick that you have the same type of phases like we saw in mitosis. Interphase, prophase, but when you look at the prophase and the metaphase, all the steps of meiosis, except for interphase, they have like a supposed to be a Roman numeral 1 next to each of these. That means this is part of stage 1. So prophase 1, when crossing over occurs, which we'll talk about later, chromosomes pair up and you're able to get different combinations of the chromosomes. Similar to before, metaphase 1 now, chromosomes line up at the equator, and then anaphase, they come apart. Remember that these line up in the middle. These come apart, and remember like A's. Telophase 1 and cytokinesis, the cell pinches in the middle and the cytoplasm divides. So that's similar to what we had before. But notice now, prophase 1 actually has something called crossing over. So important bits to know about meiosis stage 1, meiosis 1. So prophase 1, that's when the crossing over occurs, when portions of a chromatid on one homologous chromosome are broken and exchanged. Anaphase 1, chromatids do not separate, and telophase 1, chromosomes do not replicate. But the one I want you to mainly focus on is that in prophase 1, that's when crossing over occurs. So meiosis stage 2, you end up, when stage 1 occurs and finishes, you have something called two daughter cells. That's what they're called. Regardless of whether or not they're sperm or egg, they're still called daughter cells. Prophase 2, metaphase 2, anaphase 2, telophase 2, and cytokinesis. So similar what happens, but notice that when these chromosomes line up, they still line up in the middle, but notice how in anaphase they're pulled apart, but notice there's not two of them anymore. It's only one strand, if you will, on each side. So with the two daughter cells, you actually end up in the very end with four granddaughter cells. So you're ending up with haploid cells for all of your sex cells, not sex cells, but sex cells. Anyway, notice also that in this process, you can kind of see the different colors in the chromosomes. That means that you actually had chromosomes that kind of changed, they reattached to other ones, and you end up with different combinations of genes, different combinations of chromosomes for the potential offspring you can have. So one of y'all mentioned how their siblings all have light color eyes, but their parents have brown color eyes or dark colored eyes. This was probably part of that process when the genes were rearranging. So genetic variation. So there are a couple of general terms that we should be aware of when it comes to meiosis and the importance of it. So one of them is called independent assortment. It refers to the random distribution of homologous chromosomes during meiosis. So each gamete, so sperm if you're male, egg if you're female, receives one chromosome from each of the 23 pairs of homologous chromosomes. But for the offspring, which two they receive from each of the 23 pairs is a matter of chance. So basically, the way to look at it is that you were born a winner because your dad's sperm reached your mom's egg and you are the result of that fertilization. So kudos, you won when you were born or when you were conceived. Crossing over again, this is during what stage? Prophase 1. and DNA exchange that occurs and adds more possible combinations for the gametes. Random fertilization. The zygote that forms a new individual is created by the random joining of two gametes. So the number of possible outcomes, 64 trillion, based on the different gametes that can be formed in terms of the arrangement of the chromosomes. So it's a lot of different possibilities, and you're you. So what is genetic variation related to? What's the point of it? It's related to a certain theme of biology. Actually, kind of a few, actually. But genetic variation specifically is related to evolution. Because, evolution, as some of you may know, is related to survival of the fittest, according to Charles Darwin and all that. So the different combinations you can have for the gametes, and in turn the different possible genetic combinations for potential offspring, it can lead to certain, not survival, it's probably not the right word to use, but which particular offspring is going to be the one to kind of outlast and the one that's going to grow and thrive, etc., and then in turn pass on their genes to their offspring. So this is all related to genes, genetics, heredity, all the type of stuff, and evolution as well. So gamete formation. So the specific term is spermatogenesis, and it's the process by which sperm are produced in male animals, and this occurs in the testes. So this is what it looks like, just a simple drawing. This is where the testes are located at, and this is where spermatogenesis occurs. So notice how in the formation of sperm cells, there are two different processes. The first one is called spermatogenesis, and the other is spermiogenesis. So a couple of things you should kind of keep in mind: that the spermatogonium, in the process of mitosis, they form something called a primary spermatocyte. That's a lot of words, I know. So sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Spermatogonium are diploid. In mitosis, they replicate, but notice on meiosis, they kind of split, and you end up having undergoing meiosis. Then you have this haploid and haploid, and in meiosis 2, these quote-unquote daughter cells become spermatid in meiosis 2, and now you have 4 granddaughter cells. And each of these spermatids, through a process called spermiogenesis, gain the flagellum and all the different parts the sperm needs to be functional and to do what it needs to do. So this term is like oogenesis. It's actually oogenesis. It is the process by which gametes are produced in female animals and occurs in the ovaries, and that's where they're located at. The best way I use to describe the female reproductive anatomy, it's kind of like a longhorn or like a cow. So you notice the fallopian tubes, that's the horns, there's the ovaries, and then the rest, the uterus, cervix, vagina, etc. Those are like the head of the face of the cow. So when you look at this, there are different, again, kind of like with spermatogenesis and spermiogenesis, you have actually a lot less steps if you think about it, because you have the primary oocyte, and they make something called a secondary oocyte and a first polar body. But the thing I want you to focus on is at the very end, you end up with a mature egg or mature ovum and 3 polar bodies. So that's just one thing I want you, this is like the main thing I want you to take away from this, is at the end of oogenesis, you end up with a mature egg and 3 polar bodies. So that is it for now. We will continue with chapter 7 while we're in class. So make sure you guys are ready to go, ready to discuss, and then we will talk about the rest of the chapter when we're in there. All right, have a good day. See y'all later. Hit that like and subscribe. Bye.